Hello, my name is Charlie, and I am here with Pastor Scott Lathrop of Soul Bait Ministries, and we're taking some time today to talk about Pastor Scott's recent trip to Ukraine. Pastor Scott, thank you for taking the opportunity to speak with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Ukraine, you've been to lots of times before, is that right?
Yes. This is my third trip to the Ukraine.
Okay. And you guys, when did you get back? This was a recent trip, right?
Yeah, this was a very recent trip. From the time that we're making this, we've been back all of about a week and a half. And we were over there. We were actually in Ukraine, and we were actually in the country of Moldova, which was a first also.
Okay.
So we were actually in two different countries, and we were over there. The statistics of the trip were pretty intense. We were in 15 churches. We did 29 services.
Wow.
And we did that in 27 days. And of those 27 days, 8 of those days were spent in travel. And we ministered to just over 4,000 people individually on the whole trip, all combined. So
Now,
it was pretty powerful.
You did something interesting on this trip where there were two different teams that traveled at various different times.
Right.
Tell us about that.
One of the things the Lord has really been telling me and stretching me in is on this trip we actually had 3 teams. We had Team 1, which consisted of 4 people from Jacksonville. And then we had Team 2, which consisted of 2 people from Jacksonville and 2 people from, 2 people from DeLand, Florida. And then we had Team 0, that's what we called ourselves. And those were the 3 people that stayed the whole month. And that was me, Chad Holmes, and Becca McGill. We stayed the whole month, and then the other 2 teams swapped off. And it was a real interesting... God had told me to do this, but you know when God tells you to do something and you've never done it before? You're not 100% sure how it's going to work. Well, it worked perfectly because now God's going to give us the ability to do sustained missions where now we can actually build teams to come and relieve each other.
Right.
Because one thing about this trip that was really intense is every team that went, every person that went, and every place we went, 2 things happened. One, the team never wanted to leave, and the church didn't want us to leave.
Right.
I mean, we literally, I was a little nervous at one church because one church says, well, hey, we'll just take your passports, and then you have to stay with us. And I'm sitting there going, you take my passport.
A little aggressive.
Yeah, I was going to say, you take my passport, and we're going to have a bigger issue here. You know, but, you know, and they were just joking. I mean, they didn't mean nothing by it. But at the same time, for the Americans, you know, I heard this great pastor, Pastor Charlie, teach on this missionary mindset, and what he taught in that lesson, I got to see because all these Americans would come over and they'd lay hands on the babies. We had one where a lady came in with a hernia, and the next night the hernia was gone. We had a person come in with marbles for eyes. The next day they had real eyes. I mean, and so everybody's having these supernatural experiences, and I'm ringmaster. I'm like, all right, you go over here, you go over here, because I've done it enough that I'm used to it. But I was thrilled to watch everybody walk and taste a different part of their calling. And my biggest challenge to everybody that went, and I'm thankful for everybody that went. I'm thankful for every church, every person that helped support somebody on that trip, because this was our longest trip. It was 27 days. And you know, we left in September, we came back, in my mind it's still September, but it's October, and I'm going, oh, it's cold here now.
Right.
You know, so, but it was really powerful, and the thing I was so thankful about is all the people that came back so far are so hungry, and they're trying to impact their churches with the things that they learned over there.
Right.
And that, to me, speaks volumes more than anything else, because it's one thing to do it over there where nobody knows you, but when you get home and you still want to do it, that's a whole nother ball game. You know, and it's really powerful, and I was so blessed.
As a pastor, that's one of the things that I know I love to hear, because it's it's easy to send your people on this trip or that trip, and there's all kind of missions organizations out there, but there are not too many who have the heart to activate a person in their gift and then release them back into the local church. And I know for me and for my people that had the opportunity to travel on that trip with you, that is one of the things that happened, that they were activated, and now they're back here trying to release gifts and callings and raise funds and support the people that they met over there. And so that's a tremendous testament to what you were able to accomplish on this trip.
Yes, we're going to, later on, we're going to actually talk about an interesting thing that happened. We're going to do another video with me and another person, and we're going to talk about an event that actually happened over there with one of your people. And it's so powerful, and it's actually happening in real time even as we speak. And that just tells me that we serve a real God. And even though I'm not in the Ukraine, I can't tell you, since we've been back, my emails have blown up. I was talking with a pastor today, and he's like, I want you here next year, and I want you here on these dates. So they're already booking us. They want us. And the thing of it is they want us, but the biggest thing that this trip showed me was how small I was. Because I sat there, we went into this one city, this church had a church of 700. All right, well, that's not too bad, because in one day we prophesied to 900 people. So it wasn't that big a deal. But they had 70 daughter churches. They had planted 70 churches. And when we got there, the guy goes, I want to take your team, give each one of your people a translator, and send them off to a church. And I said, I can't do that. And it broke my heart. I said, I can't do that this year, because I said I didn't train them to do this. And I said, I don't want to, I said, when God sends me on a mission, I have a specific set of goals that I meet. And once I meet those goals, that's the end of the mission. And I said, I did not prepare the people for this type of an event. So I said, I can't do it this time. And so next year when we go over, I've already told everybody that goes with me to this country, I said, if you go, know that you're going to go preach. That we're going to send you out, and you're going to go with just a translator, and you're going to go to all these different villages and cities, and you're going to be, and their purpose is they're going to leave me in the center city teaching the big crowd, and then they're going to send my team out all over the country. And I am excited about that opportunity. Now, some of the people on my team looked at me kind of, I don't know, but a lot of them are just as excited. They're like, hey, I'll go preach. And I'm like, and that's just part of the because I see Soulbait, the things that God is opening up, the doors that He's opening up, because next year we could potentially be in China. We're going back to Siberia. We're going back to Israel. We're going back to the Ukraine. We're going back to Moldova. But yet God's adding new countries every year to us. And the thing that the Lord has showed me, especially when I was in the Ukraine, He says, you're too small.
Wow.
He said, you don't have enough people to cover the trips that you're going to be doing. And my mandate from God is to teach people to go do this. And so if I don't have enough people, so one of the things I'm really praying about is adding more people to Soulbait. I've already been to a couple of the churches, and I said, hey, you want to come? Come on, starting in January, we're starting a new class. Please consider, coming and being a part of Soulbait for a couple of years so we can get you trained up. Because the world is big. And the hunger for Jesus is huge. And I can't say no. If God opens a door to me, I can't say no. And that's where I'm so thankful to the partners of Soulbait. Because not only do they send us on these trips, which they're going to get eternal reward for in heaven, but the thing of it is, this year was the first year where we went on a trip where we didn't come back broke. And that sounds funny, but it's like, I'm in Ukraine, but JEA still needs their money. The office people still need their money. So I had to pay my bills while I was gone, or the people in my office did. And so I'm so thankful for the partners, because they made that happen. And even though we had things happen while we were over there, and we had a lot of testimonies. I mean, we had so many. each one of the teams had different and unique testimonies. Each team was totally different. Team 1, the bridge team, which was Pastor Jen and Shannon and Melissa, they had a totally different testimony than Team 2, which was mainly in Moldova, which was Jackie and Marina and Cato and Adrian from Faith Life. And then Team 3, Becca, Chad, and myself, we got to see it all. And one of the things I tell people, I'm blessed because I get a front row seat. I get to see God move. They're like, isn't that a lot of work? No, it's fun watching God heal people's eyes. We saw people get healed of crazy things. I mean, the first night a guy walked up and said, I want my liver healed. And poor Chad, I don't know if he'd ever prayed for anybody. I said, I just looked at him, I said, he's all yours, bro. And it was so funny because he prayed for him and the guy's liver got healed. And the fun thing about this year is, and I was really curious because God blessed me in this, I got to add people of color. Because Ukraine, you know, Russia, they're not known for having a lot of African American or Africans there. Because that's they every time they'd see somebody, are you from Nigeria? You know, I mean that was their favorite comment. You know, because they don't. And this one little kid walked up to this one black or Chad, and he goes, sir, why are you black? And you know, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, and I made a sarcastic remark. I said he drank too much chocolate milk when he was little. And the little kid got even more confused because they don't have chocolate milk over there. And I'm sitting there going, oh, well, that's what I get for opening my fat mouth. But it was just stuff like that. And I love going on the edge of God. I like taking people and doing things that is not a popular thing to do. One of the things that that's happened this year is we've moved into a beautiful office. And I had a missionary in last week. And he looked at my map and he said, I like your map. And I said, what do you mean? He says, everybody focuses on Africa. He said, everybody focuses on South America. But he says, nobody focuses on the areas that you're going. And I said, because I don't know. I said, I know other Christians go there. I'm not saying I'm the only one, because I'm not. But I really believe God is taking us into places where people have never gone before. And that, for me, jazzes me beyond all craziness.
That's just amazing. And I've seen not just the one-time spurts of you going into Ukraine and going into these countries, but also I've seen it grow over time. And I've seen the hunger of the people develop for the prophetic gift that God releases out of you. And this is a great testimony, a great story for our partners to be able to hear. Because one of the things that we're always encouraged to do as believers is to sow into good ground, And what you're telling us is good ground is people. You know, it's the people that are over in Ukraine, and it's the people that are traveling from the States over there whose heart is being ministered to. So I'm personally thankful as a board member of Soulbait to our partners and to our supporters that help get the mission and the ministry of Soulbait out. And I know that's one of your passions, and to be thankful for what God is doing through the partners that you have.
I know we got to go, but I do want to say this. Every year, this year, I mean, I started Soulbait in 1997 as a newsletter. And we actually went full-time ministry and moved to Jacksonville in 2007. This year we turned 4 years old. We're going on 5. We're not an old ministry by any stretch of any means. I've been in this a long time, but we're not an old ministry. And the thing that, if I could convey this to the partners, you're making a global impact. David faced his Goliath, and all he had was stones. But when Goliath fell, he took Goliath's weapon and slew him. What's happening with Soulbait, we don't have a lot to offer. We're not a big ministry. We can't sponsor orphanages yet. We can't do global, you know, humanitarian aids like Samaritan's Purse. But what we can do is we can go over there and we can help touch the people one person at a time, one prophecy at a time. And the things that we can do, we will do. And in that knocks down the Goliath.
Wow, amazing. I don't think that anyone would need a greater opportunity than what you've talked about right now in what God's doing in Ukraine to pray and to seek the Lord and to sow and to give into what God is doing through Pastor Scott Lathrop, Soul Bait Ministries in Ukraine. So we are thankful for those that are watching here. We're thankful to you. For those that are considering partnering with Soul Bait Ministries, now is the time. No greater time than now to help support the gospel and the prophetic work that God is doing through this ministry. So we're thankful, and we look forward to seeing you more often supporting the work of what God is doing through Soul Bait Ministries. God bless.
Thank you.